Hello everyone. This isn't normally something I do on this channel, but it just intrigues me so much that I just have to make a video on it. You can probably tell what I'm going to talk about by the title of the video. And yes, it has to do with Adventure Time and what I think is the theory surrounding the Mushroom War. Now that Season 5 has started, and we're about 4 episodes in, I do believe, we now have huge additions to the story of the Mushroom War now. The most significant, I do believe, are the Finn the Human and Jake the Dog episodes. Now, when I go through this, there's 4 main elements to the story that I want to go over. 1 is the Ice King, 2 is Marceline, 3 is the Mushroom War itself, and 4 is the actual location of Ooo. Now, I'm pretty sure that Ooo actually takes place in what used to be Africa. Now, I'm going to explain why later, but just to put something in perspective, the Ice King's actual name is Simon Petrikov, and the actual place that Ooo is similar looking to Africa, and it's on the southern half of Earth, correct? Now, there's a missing chunk from Earth in the Adventure Time storyline, and this is because what most people think is the Mushroom War. Now, the area northeast of where Ooo is the chunk of Earth that's not existing. Now, Simon Petrikov, which is the Ice King, is a Russian name, and we know that where the Ice King was, where he lived, that's where the Mushroom War was taking place, and that's actually Asia, which is actually the missing chunk from Earth. So that part kind of makes sense. I still don't know how one nuclear bomb could actually destroy that chunk of Earth, but we'll get into that later. So, when you see the title sequence of Adventure Time, it starts out in this dreary, destroyed world with dead trees. There's actually a few nuclear bombs embedded in the ground, and you know, they could go off at any time, I don't know. But there's actually some more interesting stuff here, such as a TV, which I do believe is actually Billy's TV, maybe. And there's also a hand on one of the trees. There's a missing arm. Now, this is a very important detail to remember, so keep that in mind. So, in the episodes Finn the Human and Jake the Dog, they're chasing the Lich King, who I'm going to go over quite a bit also. The Lich King is thought to be the cause of the nuclear war that went down in Ooo, because he was seen walking away from the nuclear explosion that occurred when the bomb hit the ground. But I don't think he actually caused it. I think the nuclear war caused him. Now, the only problem I see with my guess there is that we still wouldn't know who caused the nuclear bombs to be launched. I believe that the radioactive energy created from the exploding of the bombs actually rose some of the dead, like they entered some dead corpses and brought them back from the dead. So I think that's how the Lich King originated. But in the episode Finn the Human, which, major spoilers here, if you don't want to know this, I would suggest getting off of this video. But they're chasing the Lich King to an alternate universe where the Lich King wishes that he makes a wish that comes true to obliterate all signs of life in the universe. Now, the reason Finn and Jake aren't affected by this is because they are also in the universe where he made that wish. And this universe is not affected by time, so they still have chances to make their wishes. So, Finn wishes that the Lich King never existed, and this is where it gets interesting. The whole episode goes into a flashback of what would have happened if the Lich King doesn't exist. And this is where the Ice King comes in. The Ice King, which I do believe to be 1,000 years old because of the powers of the Ice Crown that he was given, he actually stops the nuclear bomb from hitting the ground by freezing it. And as we all know, Marceline is also 1,000 years old, and the Ice King Marceline actually appears next to the Ice King in the episode Finn the Human. And they are seen as very close, and the reason for this is, when Marceline was a little girl, the Ice King actually gave her a teddy bear right after the Mushroom War. So, the thing that's wrong with this, actually, is that I'm pretty sure that the alternate world that's going on is actually in the past. Though, some things to deride this theory is the fact that Marceline is 1,000 years old in the actual, alternate universe that Finn created. Now, keep in mind, this alternate universe is what did not happen. What did not happen? Ice King did not actually stop the nuclear bomb from hitting the ground. So what he actually did was 1,000 years prior to what's going on in this reality world that Finn has created, he stopped the nuclear bomb. And then Finn finds his dead body under the nuclear bomb that he stopped with ice. And he takes the crown, which actually starts weakening the bond on the nuclear bomb. So later in the episode, Finn gets mad and actually uses the crown against some bad guys that were actually burning down his house. And he ends up using the lightning bolts made out of ice that we've seen the Ice King use several times. He starts using them against the ground, and this actually weakens the ice even more. And then what happens is amazing. The nuclear bomb actually explodes from getting uncased from the ice. And the explosion is what intrigues me. It causes a green explosion of all these ghastly figures. And you may have remembered seeing that in an earlier episode. The Lich, which I do believe was actually the 27th episode, where Finn has to go and take care of the Lich. And props to the creators of this franchise, which they thought so far ahead that it's amazing. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about this Finn, this alternate reality Finn, he doesn't have an arm. And this is the part where I think that this is in the past, because we see an arm in the intro of the Adventure Time thing. And I do believe this is Finn's ancestor's arm, because he has a robotic arm instead. So that's just something interesting to keep in mind. That's why, and purely why, I think that part of the episode takes part in the past rather than an alternate reality at the exact same time as the actual show is. So, what happens when this bomb explodes, the Lich King actually does not come out for some reason, I don't know why, but Finn then tells his family to run away because he is dangerous to them. And I think that the baby brother that Finn was trying to protect, the older Finn, was actually what would have been modern day Finn. So I think it's not that far in the past, but it's maybe like 20 or 30 years or something like that. So after these two episodes aired of Finn the Human, and Jake the Dog, another episode came out of Marceline and Ice King. Actually, I think this was before Finn the Human and Jake the Dog. So the Ice King actually reunites with Marceline, and it's revealed that they knew each other 1,000 years prior to what is going on now. And the Ice King finds Marceline as a little girl in the destroyed remnants of what I'm pretty sure is Asia. So he goes up to her and gives her a teddy bear, which we actually saw earlier in the show. If you might have remembered the one where Finn and Jake go into Marceline's memory, and they find her as a little girl as well. And it's also in a destroyed world, and if you notice, there's actually a tank in there. So the Mushroom War that we've been shown so far might not be like the actual Mushroom War. But there's also burning going on in the background and all of that stuff. But they see Marceline as a kid there, and she actually has the same stuffed bear, though she's a little older than when the Ice King met her. And this was before the Ice King was corrupted by the Ice Crown, just to keep that in mind. I think he was probably about 28, 30 years old. And the little bear that she has is actually all like frayed and stuff. And this is where I'm giving props to the creators of the show. They thought that far into it to add that detail. It just astounds me. And then, of course, going back to, that's why I think that the Mushroom War was exactly 1,000 years before the actual where the show takes place now, because Marceline's 1,000 years old, and she was a kid during that time. And keep in mind, she was turned into a vampire by her father. And when she's actually tending to the bear, she actually has to sew on an eye to the bear, the broken bear, when Finn and Jake meet her. She says, I'm only doing this, I'm only hurting you because I love you. Now, this is where the fact that her dad turned her into a vampire is important. I can imagine her dad saying that exact same line as he bit her to make her immortal. So that's probably where she got that line from. Really interesting. I know. And then, going back to the Lich episode, when he actually entered his domain, notice how Finn and Jake had to swim across the ocean to get to his domain. And when they got to his domain, it was in a devastated land, destroyed, completely destroyed. I think they actually crossed the ocean to what was the destroyed part of Earth, of Oo, in that situation. Now, the only thing this is leaving out, oh, and by the way, when the Lich King actually entered his home, it made an explosion similar to the explosion the nuclear bomb made in the episode Finn the Human. But the only thing I can't really understand from this is how the Ice Crown got its ice powers, because we know that the Ice King bought it from a vendor in northern Scandinavia, and he said no one would buy it because it had magical powers. And since this interests Simon Petrikov, which is the Ice King, he bought it, and he eventually wore it, and that corrupted him into giving him immortality and allowing him to live the 1,000 years into the Oo we know today. So another thing it leaves out is the fact that we have North America, South America, and Australia that have no parts in the story. And I don't know why there aren't any humans from that part of the world. And it may be because we notice how there's been no representation of boats in the land of Oo. So there may not be a way to get around from, say, North America to what is Africa, or Oo, which I still believe it's Africa. So that's basically all I have to talk about it. The reason I made this video is because I haven't seen very many people go this into depth with it, and people who have are like 8 years old. So that's just my thoughts on the theory going around the mushroom theory. But it's just so interesting. The fact that they make a storyline that intricate for a kids show, or what was planned to be a kids show, is just phenomenal. And I hope by the end of season 5 we actually have some more info on. I'd actually want to know how the ice crown was made, and probably notice how that whole time we didn't go through anything of the actual mushroom war that happened in the actual existing timeline. All I've been talking about is the mushroom war that went on in Finn's reality, his created reality. So hopefully they'll actually do something like when the Ice King was going through the war. Notice, in the Lost Tapes episode, all of the buildings around where the Ice King lived weren't destroyed yet. So we can assume that these buildings were destroyed once he got to like the 5th phase of turning into an Ice King, or an immortal. Because all of the land around him, when he was a normal human, was actually normal. It wasn't exploded or anything. So we can assume that this time period, looking from like some of the buildings, is actually pretty close to the 21st century, if not the 21st century. So we can assume that the land of Oo is actually, or the show actually takes place in somewhere around the 30th century, or somewhere around that, given how the Ice King is about approximately what I'd think that's 1,035 years old, and Marceline's probably like 1,008 years old. That's just my guess here. But that's basically all I want to talk about. Hopefully by the end of season 5 we have some more stuff about the actual mushroom war, but I don't know if they'd go into it that far since it is just fan speculation and all. But the evidence is there. I've just got to say, the evidence is there, and it is a very good possibility that they could go on with that storyline. I have noticed that the more recent episodes of Adventure Time have all been, like, adding on to the history of what happened. Well, give or take the 2 newest episodes, which are the 5 more Grables and, like, the tree episode. So I think they're not going to add any more storyline until the end of Season 5. But that's all I have to talk about. I hope you enjoyed my theory, my rant here. Normally I don't do this. I probably won't do this again. So enjoy this one, I suppose. See you next time.